What's up, folks? It's going to be another quick video today. What I'm doing, since the transmission is out and I've got a little bit more clearance, I'm going to attack this header again for the 6th time and try to rectify this exhaust leak. So a little bit of backstory on the situation is I've actually done this header like 6 times since I've done the heads on this motor. I did it on my shorties that I originally had. Those wouldn't stop leaking. I changed from OEM gaskets to Edelbrock gaskets. Those leaked. I went from the Edelbrock gaskets to a Mr. Gasket aluminum crush gasket. That leaked. Then I went to the Percy's aluminum gasket. That leaked. I did manage to fix the passenger side. Then I went back to the Mr. Gasket aluminum gasket, and it's still leaking. So pretty much I've always had an exhaust leak ever since I did the heads on this car. I'm trying one last resort today. I think the reason for that is because the machine shop probably did something when I had these heads cleaned and resurfaced. So unfortunately, that's the situation. I've got one more old school trick up my sleeve that I'm going to try, and hopefully that works out. So one of the beauties of a small block Ford is the ease of access that you have to your header bolts. I've already started loosening this one, but pretty much you can hit all of these bolts except for like you can hit all of these bolts pretty easily except for this one right here and maybe this one. And what I've done for that is I've made myself what I call the header tool, and this is just a chopped off Allen wrench, and you can get right in there between the curve on that and pull those bolts out. So alright, that looks like about the clearance that I'm going to have to do what I need to do in. So let's take a look at this gasket and see where this leakage occurred. Alright, so if you look across the front, everything looks pretty solid. Looks like the only spot where leaking was here, all the way at the back cylinder. So it just wasn't sealing down all the way. Who knows why that is. But previously I've actually had all 4 cylinders on this side leaking. So this is actually the best I've ever done, but it's still leaking and it still sounds horrible. So let's get to fixing it. Alright folks, I just found something that was really cool. It looks like now that the header is unbolted, I could actually drop this out through the bottom. If the car was actually on a lift, I'd be able to slide it out right where it's at now. But I'm not going to raise the car up any higher just because I'm afraid that it's going to fall off of the jack stands being at a funky angle. What I'm going to do is go ahead and shift gears right now and pull the bell housing off, because there's a little tab off of the bell housing, and that's the only thing that's blocking me from pulling it out right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and try and remove the bell housing like I was gonna try to do today anyway, and this header should slide right out of there, and then we can do what we need to do to the header, and I'll show you guys that in a little bit. Alright, let me show you something else while I'm pulling the starter off. Something I actually stressed out about all day for absolutely no reason at all. With my long tubes, it should have been a very difficult job to get this starter off, and I've actually got tons of room here. So if you look straight down, ignore the enormous pile of rust, but if you look straight down, that bolt that you see there, try and point to it, but you see it right here. That's the top starter bolt, and you can actually reach it easily and put a tool on it and everything. And the bottom bolt is pretty much exposed to plain air down below. So once you get those 2 bolts off, the starter can come off, and you've actually got enough clearance with long tubes on to actually pull that starter out. So really excited that this wasn't the hardest part of my day. Alright, before I go any further with this starter, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect my battery. I definitely don't want to get into any trouble over here safety wise, because the starter has a cable that runs directly to the battery, and I don't want that arcing or electrocuting or doing anything crazy. So if you're screwing with the starter or anything else electrical, go ahead and disconnect the battery. Alright folks, so from down below, I've already removed all of the bolts from the perimeter of the bell housing. The last thing that I'm gonna have to take out, which you can see right here, is can you see it? Yeah. This is the clutch cable, and to remove that, you can basically just push it out of there, and that will slide through like so. And yeah, it's kind of hard for me to do this in this position, but that will pull straight out of there. And that's actually the tab that's blocking me right now from pulling the long tubes out. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that, and the bell housing should slide off. Alright, now that the bell housing is off, as you can see, I've definitely got some nastiness and some oil around this area here. I'll see that better once I remove the, once I remove the pressure plate and the clutch disc and the flywheel. But basically what this tells me is that my rear main seal is leaking. From what I've seen, it's a pretty easy DIY, so you'll be seeing me do that in a probably in the next video. But actually, now that I've removed that, these should come out. I'm gonna have to raise the car a little bit more just to get these headers out, but these headers are actually about ready to slide out. I may have to actually remove this back plate, but once I remove this back plate, these headers are gonna slide right out. Alright, so next up, I'm just gonna go ahead and pull the pressure plate off. Oh no! Alright, and now hopefully this header will come out without a fight. Oh yeah! Alright folks, so here's what I'm planning on doing to the header in order to get this thing to work. I was talking to my good friend Richard Rawlings, and he advised that I actually go and cut in between these joints. That way each flange can seal separately, and that's how they used to fix header leaks back in the day. So let's go ahead and chop up this perfectly good BBK long tube. Alright, check it out. I decided only to make 2 cuts because these things started moving around. I know some of you guys are going to leave nasty comments because I did that. Guess what? Those comments are getting deleted. So anyway, that's what I got. I hope it works, and let's see. Alright, so that's about it. The header is reinstalled. It was a little bit interesting getting that thing back on since the flanges weren't 100% lined up. I had to line each section up individually. But besides that, it wasn't so bad. I tightened those things down the best that I possibly could. And I'm really crossing my fingers that I don't have an exhaust leak when I go to start this thing back up, because I haven't actually heard this motor run as it is now without an exhaust leak. So that wraps up today's video. The Fox is getting closer to being done. Pretty much everything is disassembled. It's going to get disassembled, and the reassembly process has begun. So we'll see what we're on to tomorrow. And definitely within a week, I definitely plan on having this thing done. So let's see how it goes.